This week, Bottom Line is taking a special look at job creation within the United States. We are calling our series American Made, the return of U.S. manufacturing. We've all heard a lot about the offshoring of jobs, sending them overseas, but you may not have heard much about reshoring, bringing jobs back. Today, we look at Exxel Outdoors, a fast-growing private company that specializes in sleeping bags. The founder and his partner originally purchased an Alabama plant so they could gut it and move the machinery to Mexico, but they've had a change of heart. He'll tell us why he changed his mind. As Harry Kazazian, the CEO of Exxel Outdoors. He joins us from Bloomberg's Los Angeles studio. Mr. Kazazian, welcome to Bottom Line. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me on, Mark.
Why the change of heart?
It all has to do with the people that we have in Alabama, our employees. They're the best employees we have anywhere in the world. And when it came down to it, it's all about the workers that you have and the team you put together. And we've been able to assemble a team that's made our factory the most efficient factory anywhere in the world. And we've been able to reduce our cost to the point where we could produce a sleeping bag 3 to 4% cheaper in our factory in Alabama than in China.
Mr. Kazazian, you have a quote about outsourcing, and I want to put it on the screen. You say the days are over where you think you can go over to China to get something cheap. Why do you say that?
Well, labor shortages in China. We have the currency exchange rates have been going the other direction, and a combination of those two have really led China to the point where it's being less and less competitive, and it's made being more competitive in the States to much more advantage. The unfortunate thing is that China is no longer the low-cost producer in the world in textiles. It's now Bangladesh, and there's always going to be foreign competition. And we don't take it at Exxel lightly. We look at all countries and we make sure that we're always competitive no matter where the competition is coming from.
Well, sir, where do you think that shifting in China started? What happened?
Well, right now there's a huge labor shortage. And we saw it coming a while ago. No country stays on top forever as a low-cost producer. And after World War II, it was Japan, then it was Korea, then it was Taiwan, then it went to China. And there'll always be a country that's coming up as far as the low-cost producer. And that pattern and that trend is already taking place, which has made our situation at Exxel Outdoors much better. We're in much better position to be able to provide products and services to our retailers.
But Mr. Kazazian, I know you've heard the argument that a lot of people say that the place to be right now is in the emerging markets. Is Exxel an example of why that argument just doesn't hold water?
No, it doesn't hold water. If you look at it as a short-term picture, yes, it's always cheaper to go to the low-cost producing country. What's wrong with American industry and a lot of public companies is they're looking so much at the next quarter to generate revenue, they're not looking 2 years, 3 years out. If more American businesses took an approach that we're going to invest in our plant, we're going to invest in our automation, we're going to do all the things that we need to do to look at the bigger picture, you could make up a lot of the efficiencies to overcome the challenges of just low-cost labor.
Talk to me about your relationship with Walmart.
Our relationship with Walmart has been absolutely great. They encourage us to be green. When this plant was slated for closure when we bought it in 2000, Walmart gave us the opportunity to continue the business, and we've expanded. And if all is said and being equal, Walmart will always support a U.S. manufacturer. The key is that you just can't take that for granted. You still have to provide a good quality product at a great value, because consumers, a lot of consumers don't want to pay more for a product. And that's the part that we always make sure that we're able to provide a value-driven product and not rely on that we're just made in the USA and everybody's going to buy it.
Mr. Kazazian, manufacturing cost. I know that they're a significant part of any company's bottom line. How have manufacturing cost affected you and your company?
Well, as you well know, a lot of the laws coming through Washington sometimes don't help manufacturing, and they put an extra burden on our costs. And that's been the biggest challenge, is to make sure that our government works to level the playing field for American manufacturing. And that's the biggest challenges that we're fighting for. And we've reached out to a lot of people in Washington, both our congressmen and congresswomen in California and our senators, to say, hey, we need to keep the playing field level. Because unfortunately, a lot of the government has given up on a blue-collar manufacturing, and we shouldn't just give it up and say, let's outsource all blue-collar jobs. Not everybody wants to work in a bank or a hospital or be a lawyer. We need to provide jobs for everybody.
Mr. Kazazian, we should mention that recently you've been back and forth to Washington, and one of the issues of concern is something called GSP. That's the Generalized System of Preferences, and that's a system of trade rules that allows Bangladeshi sleeping bags to bypass that 9% tariff. Is this adversely affecting Exxel?
Well, currently that's not the case. We've been fortunate enough to have Senator Sessions and our Congressman Aderholt and our Congresswoman Judy Chu from California work bipartisanly to stop that from happening. But it's a challenge, and we got to continue to fight to make sure that Bangladesh factories don't take products duty-free from China to Bangladesh and imported duty-free to America, while Exxel Outdoors, whatever raw materials we import, we pay duties on. And it's an adverse effect on American industry, and we're fighting hard in Washington to make sure that our government ensures that American industry and American employees are treated fairly and that no foreign competitors have an unfair advantage over an American industry. And it's been a fight, and it's not over yet, and we're still hopeful that in the end people will do what's right so we could produce more products in America.
If the Bangladeshi sleeping bags are exempted from the tariff, would that mean perhaps that you would have to move offshore and maybe shut down that plant in Alabama?
Well, the risk always exists that at the end, as an American industry, our company has to do what's right to survive. We try not to look at that picture, but if American trade laws are done in a way that are a disadvantage and they encourage us to go offshores, then ultimately that's what would end up happening. We're hopeful that our government won't do something that is just so simple as saying, if American company has to pay duties, so should a foreign company. It shouldn't be that they pay zero and we pay duties. And I'm hopeful that people in Washington continue to see that that's the right way to do things.
Mr. Kazazian,
you would think it's an easy answer.
Mr. Kazazian, I wanted to ask, because I asked our guest yesterday, talk to me in our last minute about the significance in these days, in these economic times, of the Made in the USA label. What does that mean to you and to your company?
It's an amazing opportunity. We look at so many ways of producing more products in America. I don't think there's a CEO or an American industry, if they have their choice, would want to be manufacturing in America. I don't think that you'd find one that would tell you different. I get so many heartwarming letters from people that would buy a product at a retail store, look at the bag and say, oh my God, it was made in USA. And I'd get a letter and people encouraging me, and I constantly get letters of support from everyone to bring more products back to America. And we're going to work hard at Exxel Outdoors to continue that trend.
Harry Kazazian, the founder and CEO of Exxel Outdoors, joining us from Los Angeles. Mr. Kazazian, thanks for your time. My apologies for tripping over your name at the start of the interview, but thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
No, hey, thank you for getting our message out.
Thank you, sir.